Hello and welcome back, adventurers. This is Captain TTRPG, and today we're talking about Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Hello and welcome back, adventurers. We are going to keep on rolling forward with our top and bottom 5 rank spell lists, and we are on to rank 7 spells, which is exciting. We're getting very near the top. Things are getting much more difficult to put on the bottom 5 list, but we're still doing it. Having said that, there are 65 rank 7 spells on Archives of Nethys, so still plenty to go through. Don't worry. Plenty of content for the video. Plenty of things to consider. Plenty of reading. That being said, as usual, my criteria, what I'm looking at are things like number of actions, range, duration, targets, effects, control, support, utility, damage, AoE damage, scaling, the incapacitation trait, ease of use. Are they best on a prepared caster, or at least worth your spell slot for that specific slot? Will they be worth it as part of your repertoire? Should you make it a signature spell? Who is it good for? Casters, Gish, martial within archetype, all of those things going into my ratings. Having said all of that, let's dive in here with our first top spell, Contingency. Contingency takes 10 minutes to set up, has the concentrate and manipulate traits, is for arcane casters only, which is rare. I don't usually put spells in here that are for just one of our traditions, but I think this is worth it. This lasts until your next daily preparations. As part of casting this, you choose a spell of rank 4 or lower. It must be a spell that targets you, though it can be one that can affect others, but it still targets you. You choose a trigger. When that trigger happens, you use your reaction to cast the rank 4 spell, or rank 4 or lower spell, you chose. When it goes off, it affects only you. When you heighten this spell by 1 rank, you heighten the spell that you could choose by 1 rank. So if you cast rank 8 Contingency, you can choose a rank 5 spell or lower. A player's creativity will absolutely determine how well this is used, but it has so much versatility, and it is the ultimate defensive tool. There are so many interesting things you can do. At rank 4 and lower, we have a ton of options. As you know, maybe I want to become invisible, where my hostile actions don't break invisibility when I use them. Cool. 4th rank invisibility it is. Maybe I want to change form into a bird, take aerial form when I cast, a certain spell. I don't know. Who knows? But it could be any trigger. It could be, enemies walked in, combat began, whatever that trigger is. That's when I can trigger whatever spell this is. So many combinations are possible here. It is an insane number of possibilities to consider, and you can choose anything that will make sense to you. You can sculpt it to the day. You can make it more general. Yes, it's true, you might not run into the condition for the trigger you set up, but that's really if you didn't think about your trigger very carefully, or maybe your trigger is something like you're about to die and you never do. Okay, not a big loss. You didn't die anyway. It was a good day. So maybe that's not a big deal. In any case, Contingency is the ultimate safety net. Just make sure to have a lot of fun being creative. Leng Sting. This is 2 actions, has the concentrate, manipulate, necromancy, poison, and uncommon traits for arcane and occult casters. There's a range of touch, and it affects 1 creature. There's a fortitude save involved. You deal 2d6 piercing damage on touch. If that causes damage, you inflict Leng Spider Venom with a fortitude save. On a critical success, nothing happens. On a success, you deal 2d6 poison damage, and that's it. On a fail, they get stage 1 venom, and on a crit fail, they're into the stage 2 venom. What is Leng Spider Venom? The venom itself has the incapacitation trait, so keep that in mind. Save against it are increased for higher level creatures. This is a level 13 poison, has a maximum duration of 6 rounds. Stage 1. You take 2d6 poison, and you are drained 1. That's for a round. Stage 2 is 3d6 poison, and drained 2 for a round. Stage 3 is 4d6 poison, drained 2 for around, and confused. So yes, all the way down at stage 3, this can be brutal, but keep in mind incapacitation trait on the saves. So that first 2d6 damage is no attack, no save, it just happens. That's cool. I mean, yeah, that's an average of 7 damage. You can't critically succeed, and they can't critically fail, so it's just an average of 7 damage. So you're probably not too excited doing 7 damage to something with, 185 hit points, but it's something. If you happened to actually do damage to the target, meaning it didn't have resistance high enough to just ignore the damage, then great. It's going to get a save. And if it succeeds on that save, which again is the most likely outcome, you deal 7 poison damage on average. So that means you spent your 7th rank slot and you got up into touch range to deal 14 damage. That's not exciting. You should not be happy about that. If you do get the creature to fail, the drained one is good. So that's nice. But all it does is make up for the extremely terrible damage that you've done otherwise. Because, again, that 14 damage is even there on a fail. That's all you're doing. 14 damage and drained 1 against, let's say, probably a level 13 creature. Okay, you've done 27 damage. And they fail to save to get that 27 damage out. They have to fail round after round for this to actually be good, and the chances are terrible, especially against any creature that actually matters. If you want to do single target damage, there's much better ways to do it than this. Power word blind. This takes 1 action, as the concentrate, auditory, enchantment, and verbal traits is for arcane only again. The range is 30 feet. You target 1 creature. You choose a creature, and the effect is based off of the creature's CR level, not a save, not an attack, nothing like that. If the creature is 11 or below, it is permanently blind. If it is levels 12 or 13, then it is blind for 1d4 minutes. If it is level 14 plus, it is dazzled for 1 minute. When you heighten this by a rank, the levels all go up by 2. When you get this, you are level 13. So if you choose to blind an enemy your level, your CR, right? So 13 versus your 13, for 1 action, you blinded that creature for the entire combat. Even choosing a boss creature, it has no save, just dazzled for a minute. Now it has to beat a constant DC 5 flat check to target your party. Dazzled isn't game-breaking, it's not a complete shutdown, but it is really nice. It's nice to force a strong or high-level creature to have to work harder to attack you and your allies. Blind is absolutely scary. Blind, depending on what kind of other senses a creature has, can shut a creature down. So for the cost of a 7th rank slot, plus 1 action, knowing exactly what the outcome will be, assuming you can figure out what the creature is, yeah, this is going to feel very, very effective, even if it is a rather high-level slot to do this with. Possession. Takes 2 actions, as they concentrate, manipulate, incapacitation, mental, possession, and uncommon traits for occult casters only. Target 1 creature in 30 feet. It is a living creature. This lasts for 1 minute, and there's will saves involved. You send your soul into the target. While doing this, your body is unconscious and cannot be woken up. You sense what the creature senses. If it dies while you possess it, you make a fortitude save against your own spell DC, which paralyzes you on a failure for 1 hour, or 24 hours on a crit fail. You can dismiss the spell early, which is good. When you cast the spell, the creature gets a will save. If they critically succeed, they're unaffected. If they succeed, you're going to ride along in their body, but they're going to choose all their own actions. You'll still be unconscious with your body, but you'll be riding along with them. If they fail the save, at the start of each of the creature's turns, it makes another will save. On a fail, you get to control its actions for that turn. On a success, it controls its own actions for that turn. If it gets a critical success on this second save, you are kicked out and the spell ends. If the creature crit fails that first will save, then you fully control the creature's actions for the duration of the spell. Once again, we have a spell that will only even kind of feel good when the enemy crit fails. Like, you taking control is solid. Your body's still over there unconscious, which isn't good for you, but you can end it early. So controlling is good. If they even just fail, though, you're already in a bad scenario. And if you, by the way, if you couldn't dismiss this yourself, we'd be talking absolute terrible garbage of a spell because, oh boy, you'd be setting yourself up to die. Anyway, you can't dismiss it, so we're not that bad. But if they fail, they still get another chance to succeed every single round. So if you use this against a higher level creature where the incapacitation kicks in, if magically they critically failed and therefore got a failure, on their next save they still get the incapacitation trait, you're not going to ever control them. So just get that out of your mind. That's not going to happen. You might ride along with them, but you're never going to control them. So it has to be a minion of theirs. Okay, you might gain partial control of a minion a couple rounds here and there. But then you have to convince your allies not to fight that minion that you've got partial control of, which you may not control every round, so it might just go and decimate your team, but you don't want your team to attack it because you might control it. And of course it dies while you're in there, then you're really screwed. The negative outcomes here just greatly outweigh the positive ones in almost every scenario I can think of. I seriously think you should avoid this. It feels like a trap. Warp Mind. 2 actions. Concentrate, manipulate, emotion, mental, and incapacitation traits. For Arcane and Occult casters, has a 120-foot range. You target one creature. There's a will save involved. You force a creature to save against scrambling their mind. If they crit succeed, nothing happens. If they succeed, it's confused for its first action next round. If it fails, it's confused for 1 minute. And if it crit fails, it is confused permanently. This can't be dispelled. The Wish Ritual is the only thing that can get rid of it. And after using this, that creature then is immune for 10 minutes. It is not often that I think a spell with incapacitation trait is worth preparing, but this one I think falls into that bucket. So, big things here. Success has an outcome you care about. Yes, it's only for that first action, but even confused for a first action means that round could easily be wasted for the creature. If it takes its first action and attacks an ally, or charges toward a nearest ally that's the opposite direction of all of you in the party, it's probably going to lose its entire turn. So the first thing they want to do every round is really just go after the nearest creature. Then you're probably winning by losing all of its actions from mattering at all toward you that round, which is great. In the failed case, where it's confused for a minute, that's crazy. Confused for a minute, if you hit the right target, means it'll just go wild against its entire team. And that is fantastic for you. You just have to control the battlefield after that point. Now, confused is certainly not controlled. You know, it's more like, rather than guiding the missile, you're just making it go off early in a space it doesn't want to go off. And that's kind of what's going on here. Confused permanently is funny, but really isn't necessary because battles don't last very long anyway. It's unlikely you're going to send this creature off on its own while it's confused. None of that's going to happen. So confused for a minute is really all we ever need, making fail essentially as good as a crit fail, which is fantastic because, again, incapacitation is here, right? Now, it's unlikely you're even going to get a higher level creature to crit fail. If it does, it gets the fail, that's amazing, but you're probably still better off choosing a minion rather than a boss creature. Make sure you can confuse it, at least give the best chance you can, and then really make it hard for the others around it to survive. If it were me, I would go after whatever bodyguard the big bad has, because if that bodyguard turns on the big bad, you have a very different combat ahead of you. Ray of Corruption. 2 actions, has the Concentrate, Manipulate, Fungus, Poison, and Rare traits. For Divine and Primal casters. Is a 60-foot range spell that targets one creature or object. And you're going to target their AC and Fortitude saves. You make a spell attack at a creature or non-magical organic object. If it's an object, it melts away, up to 1 cubic foot of it anyway. So even at a tree or, I don't know, a woven basket or something, you can just disintegrate it. Don't know why you do that, but sure. If you target a creature, which is what's going to happen every time, then first you hit it. If you hit it with your spell attack roll, then it makes a basic fortitude save against 6d6 poison damage, and against 6d12 poison damage and 6d12 spirit damage. On a crit success, nothing happens. Success, half damage. On a fail, full damage plus 2d12 persistent acid, and on a crit fail, double damage plus 4d12 persistent acid damage. If you critically hit the attack roll, when you go to do the attack part of this, then the creature's going to get 1 degree worse on its save against the fortitude part of it. When you heighten +1, the d12s go up by 1. So another d12 of poison, another d12 of spirit damage. All right, you heard the numbers. This is a lot of damage. On average, at this rank, on a fail, we are looking at 78 damage plus 13 persistent acid damage. That is well above rate for the level. But it comes with a pretty big catch. You don't just force a save. You have to hit into a save. What this really becomes is, rather than, say, having like a 35% chance for a creature to fail and a 50% chance to save or something like that, it's now you have a 40% chance to hit with your spell, then it has those chances after that. Suddenly, you've decreased the chance of every outcome by a massive margin, right? Suddenly, making assumptions based on the reviews of creatures for a target your level, the average damage drops by 55 to 60% because of your chance to hit being pretty terrible. Meaning you do nothing if you miss. Forcing yourself to get through 2 levels of defenses, that's just not worth it. Even if the math comes out okay relative to other spells, this will generally just feel worse, right? Because if you throw a spell out there and they get a save, great, they took half damage, okay, that was a likely outcome. The likely outcome here is that you miss with the attack. That is the likely outcome. And oh, how terrible it would feel if you hit with the attack roll and it crit succeeds. Great, you hit it with your spell for it to do nothing. It's just... I understand that they wanted to put out a spell with really high damage numbers and needed to keep it in check. This kind of keeping it in check feels terrible. Shock to the system. 2 actions: concentrate, manipulate air, electricity, healing, and vitality traits for divine, occult, and primal casters to offset my arcane only spells. It deserves the spot, don't worry. Choose a target within 30 feet. This is either one living creature or one creature that died in the last round. This lasts for 1 minute. You're going to pull a cloud down upon the creature, like a storm cloud, and zap it with healing lightning. If it was dead in the last round, meeting that criteria, it's going to come back to life with 0 hit points, and it holds on to any conditions it had before it died, other than dying or dead, and it will now be wounded 1, or its wounded will go up by 1. Now, whether it was dead or not, doesn't matter. Whoever you targeted, that target is now healed 8d8, which is an average of 36 hit points, and it wakes up if unconscious to help with that whole you were dead scenario. For the next minute, it is quickened and can use that extra action to either stand, strike, stride, or fly, assuming you have a fly speed. It can cast 5th rank Thunder Strike at will. Thunder Strike being at this rank a 2-action 5d12 electricity, 5d4 sonic damage with a reflex save that has a clumsy rider. And this uses your spell DC. That's right, the spell DC of the person casting Shock to the System, making it a really good spell DC. The cloud stays, by the way, on the creature until the end of that creature's next turn, and anything in the cloud is hidden to anything outside, and vice versa. When you heighten this +1, the healing goes up by 2d8, and the rank of Thunder Strike goes up by 1. Yeah, this is here because this is just cool. I love this design just so much. This is now another way to permanently bring an ally back from the dead. Granted, you have a very short, window of time to do that in, but it's meant for end combat, so hopefully that unit of time will be enough. Yes, it's 2 actions to cast, and you have to do something within 30 feet, so make sure you can use that 1 action you have to sprint over close enough to use this, but then yeah, it can bring somebody back. Even if you aren't bringing somebody back from the dead, you've got a hurt ally, possibly downed but not dead. Boom, you drop some healing on them, they're conscious again, everything goes from there, right? They're now stronger. It's not that you just healed them. The heal is really good. It's not as good as like a 2-action heal from the heal spell, which is absolutely nuts by this point, but it's still good healing, and you've given them haste, essentially, on top of access to an at-will spell that's actually got solid damage. I mean, that's not a, it's not a weak spell at that point. What is the average damage on that? Real quick, 45 average damage. Yeah, I think for 2 actions, when you've got 2 others to spend, you might spend 2 actions blasting people with lightning. I mean, even as a melee marshal, you've got 1 action to stride, 1 to strike with, and you can still use your other 2 to blast somebody with lightning. Yeah, that's going to feel pretty awesome. You are going to feel like a Norse god. This is so cool. And of course, you could always use it on yourself if you want to, because that's fun as well, but probably better used on a martial character that can get advantage of all sides of this. So yes, you can wait until somebody's down to use this, wait till they're low to use this, or maybe you just want to start combat and say, hey, friend, go nuts, blast people with lightning while you chop their heads off. Hungry Depths. 3 actions, as they concentrate, manipulate, void, and water traits for arcane and primal casters. 120-foot range with a 5-foot burst. There's a basic reflex save tied to the damage here. This lasts for 1 minute sustained. When you make this 5-foot burst, this area, when you cast the spell, creatures in that area have that basic reflex save against 4d8 piercing and 4d4 void damage, which is 28 damage on a fail on average. When sustained, you either increase the radius by 5 feet or move it 10 feet, forcing a save on all creatures it passes through. By the way, that increase of radius maxes out at 15-foot burst. The damage per creature happens once per round, and when you heighten to 9th rank, this goes to 5d8 and 5d4. Oh my goodness, is that terrible damage. Wow, it's just so low. And it's only damage. This is just damage, and the damage is terrible. So, first of all, let me just say, there's no reason this is 3 actions. I mean, any other rank, any other spell like this would be 2 actions. I have no idea why it's 3. Then, the AoE is just tiny. You're hitting 4 squares. Now, in water, it's also 40 feet high in a cylinder, but it's still a 5-foot radius, so okay. Then, there is the sustain. Nothing is going to hang out near a pit of teeth. Just not going to happen. So increasing it by 5 feet, that's not going to catch anything. Nothing's that close to your death void. That's just silly. So you have to move it 10 feet. 10 feet is nothing. Again, nobody is standing this close to the circle of pain. It's not even that much pain, but they're still not standing next to it. So maybe if it moved 30 feet, you consider moving this around. It's outranked by rank 6 spells. I mean, if you remember my last video, Phantom Orchestra. Choose another 10-foot burst in 120 feet every round as your sustain, and it does more damage. And you can choose anywhere. How are these things? The comparison blows my mind. I just don't get it. Just don't do this. Frigid Flurry. 2 actions. Has the concentrate, manipulate, cold, evocation, and water traits for arcane and primal casters. This creates a 120-foot line as a basic reflex save. You fire out a line of 9d6 cold and 9d6 slashing damage in a line up to 120 feet long. This doesn't hit allies. You are then, after the spell goes off, carried to the end of that line you made, up to 120 feet away. The damage here is above baseline. Baseline here would be 14d6. This is 18d6. So that's nice. It's a nice little buff above. Not crazy numbers above, but it's still better. Then, and I usually don't like lines, this line is solid because it cannot hit allies. You can line up whatever you want, and you know your team is safe. And this does happen. Right? In Pathfinder, thanks to flanking, we end up with lines of people because they're on opposite sides of another creature. If we have an ally being flanked, we just move into line with that and blast through. Our allies fine, and we've guaranteed at least hit 2 creatures, and then we're thrown to the other side, probably keeping us out of harm's way. So yes, we can still move around and do damage. We have to think a little bit because we have to know where we're going to end up. We have to try to hit whatever creatures we care about. It is just damage. But saying that, compared to the just damage we just saw and the damage things we've seen before, this is a solid damage spell, does multiple types, which I like, doesn't hit allies, and we get to move. All combined, that's very cool, and a smart player using this spell can get advantage from every aspect of it, and I like that. I like that thought is rewarded. Unfettered Pack. This is 2 actions, has the concentrate and manipulate spells. It is primal only. Has a range of 30 feet, and you choose 10 targets. Lasts for 1 hour. Targets don't take circumstance penalties to speed from vegetation, rubble, winds, or other properties of the environment, and they ignore difficult terrain from such environmental properties. Heightened to 9th rank. This affects greater difficult terrain as well. So I know this is primal and not arcane, but look at what we had at rank 6. We had 2 spells that I think fill in the 2 purposes for this to exist. Either you want to do overland travel, hence the whole lasting an hour thing, although the hour helps with combat too. I know that, but they're using for overland travel so you're not hindered. I just use rank 6 teleport, just teleport where you want to go. Feels like a much easier option. Now this could also be used in combat, right? Hence the 2 actions. So if you're just trying to cross something challenging, why not just use airlift? It'll just pick up your party and just move you all 120 feet. That feels like a much easier choice. And there are other things too. There's other ways to deal with difficult terrain in a battlefield. Like if you're fighting across difficult terrain, I can see why, you might think this is worth casting. I don't know, maybe we just throw down a wall of stone and just cover all the battlefield in terrain that isn't a problem. Or I don't know. If it's magical difficult terrain, this won't help because it has to be natural stuff only. Yes, it can have value. I don't think it's useless, right? This isn't as bad as some of the ones we've talked about. And again, I am stretching to find some bad spells at this spell rank. So I don't think this is beyond redemption. I just think, what situation are you thinking to bring it for? Make sure it isn't better replaced by something else. And that's it for the top and bottom 5. So real quick, let me run through those honorable mentions of mine. We've got Love's Sacrifice. This is a reaction to force a creature to take damage for you, keeping you up even on a successful save, making sure that you can't be downed from that source of damage for Arcane and Divine casters. Then there's Regenerate. This is a healing spell that actually prevents you from dying by just taking damage, unless it has a death effect, and it regrows limbs. So it's healing you over time and keeping you alive, keeping you well for Divine and Primal casters. Then there's Mask of Terror. This is a defensive spell that causes frightened to would-be attackers. So they go to attack you, they become frightened, potentially, depending on their save. But it's actually a very cool way to add a defensive layer to yourself if you want to keep creatures at bay and set up your allies to have some success against them at the same time. For Arcane, Occult, and Primal casters. And finally, True Target. This is a single action that grants advantage, essentially. Well, we call it fortune effect here. Roll 2 d20s, take the highest advantage, to the first attack against a certain creature for up to 4 allies. So this is saying, hey, this round you're all going to go Nova on this creature because you all have advantage. I give it to all my marshals. Go to town, crit away. Arcane and Occult casters. Solid. And my upcasting suggestions. First, we have Haste. So Haste gives, of course, an extra action for Stride or Strike. Now you're going to get quickened with that extra action for 6 creatures instead of 1. The whole party and striding at a bare minimum is fantastic for everybody. Then there's fly. At this rank, you can now make yourself, or a different creature, fly for an hour instead of just 5 minutes. An hour is a very long time to fly. Then we have resist energy. It now targets 5 allies and gives resist 15 to the energy type you choose. And it lasts for 10 minutes. So you can prep it before a fight when you're going to go in against a dragon or something, and you're going to be in a way better place. And finally, drop dead. This is a reaction that targets an ally. When that ally is hit by an attack, it creates an illusory corpse, and the ally becomes invisible. What happens at rank 7 is now that creature gets the greater invisibility route of their hostile actions don't break invisibility. So assuming you can pull it off, it looks like your ally died, and now the enemies are just getting hurt by some invisible force, like some horrible avenging ghost. And that's it for our rank 7 spells. What do you think? What do you put on your characters? Did I put one of your favorites in my bottom 5? Let me know in the comments below, and as always, adventure on.